Hello folks, this is Karl-James Langford, and over the next few weeks the subject I am teaching at my classes via Skype and actual classes is the area of religious sites seen in an archaeological context. I'm not really interested in the religions themselves. So this is an introduction to the series, and we've got a variety of different slides looking at a whole range of different archaeological sites from across the world. First image is Angkor Wat. And the first impression I give my students when I'm looking at this image is that this image goes above and beyond its religious connotation. Each individual stone, each individual carving has been created by somebody who in life will live on forever, because their achievement is to be seen in the building. So as opposed to my previous series of lectures, first about burial and then about death and disease, these types of sites give a blossoming of life when you look at them. Slide 2 is very closer to home in an archaeological sense. A Roman site very close to Hadrian's Wall, site known as Benwell. I've got a whole series of lectures next week looking at Roman sites, Roman temple sites in Britain, and a sense of life that this site would have been used by Roman soldiers, and those two upstanding carved stones are altars, very much in keeping the soldiers alive and offerings to their forever lasting life in the conflicts that they are involved in at the time. Again, another image of Angkor Wat. You can get an idea of the approach of the sense of keeping with now, past, present and future. Maybe the people who knew that they were contributing a carved stone knew that their sense of being would in fact be enshrined for this image today. One thing that you must look at these sites, these archaeological sites in a religious sense, is that this is a Chinese temple. Many exist in Peking and various other places of China. This goes against religion in that most of these sites fell out of having a religious connotation in the late 1940s, and by the 1950s the religious connotations had been completely evaporated, when in fact they're still there today, not burnt down. These sites themselves are enshrined in the life of everyday China. Mound builders of the likes of Mississippi and Alabama, mounds them built to express themselves to heaven. On top of the mounds, given their sense of religion, seen in mounds today rather than timber and stone, but still the archaeology of religion. When religions clash and come together, you see a fitting anomaly in Jerusalem, where this is the Dome of the Rock, the great minaret of the Muslim shrine there, but surrounded by its fellow religions, Judaism and Christianity. Great leveler. This is not about religion, this is about life. Byzantine Church. Many dot the old Roman world. Byzantium took its precedent on the earth stage. Churches themselves seemingly connect with the people's love of their sense of spirit and religion. But in that, when you go into these churches, it isn't about death. It's more about in the life, the saints, the very connecting. And these churches today even still connect at a very community level, uniting people in the spirit of humanity rather than the sense of religion itself. Religion itself, in its form of its archaeology, can be seen to be isolating, with many cellular structures like this in Scotland and Ireland and so on. Small cells that kept away the normal people, the common people, away from religion, making it an elite thing. These don't tell us much about society, they tell us about individual religions rather than the sense of encompassing the community, to be seen dotted across our landscape. When I looked at the great wonders many months ago, I looked at wonders of the ancient world. The temples in Egypt were not included in the original list of the ancient wonders. Pyramids were, but not the temples, because there were so many of them. They seemed in life in the ancient writers like Herodotus, as they were to other writers. Looking at these sites in the present, in the or in the life, each individual brick, each individual wonderful relief and painting was to be seen for people to in awe at, but directly connect with it. The Karnak site, Luxor temple itself, again, seeing the minarets of a mosque inside, this supposedly pagan work, 4,500 years the younger of the mosque, but itself a great leveller in that the walls were not demolished and to be seen in its entirety today. Again, Luxor. You look at that and you connect directly with spirit, with humanity, with life, and the people of the past knew that this was their life and their soul. It wasn't about the pharaoh's deemed sense of immortality, it was about the people knowing that they've enshrined in the being of such a wonderful sight. Painting such a sight that you would see. Such a wonderful sight that would really connect with the groups of people standing there, looking at the ancient world, connecting with the stories in relief and the paintings. That's not about the afterlife, that's about now and the present. Fell in love many months ago about the world of the Etruscans 2,700 years ago, and the Etruscans lived as much as they saw their religion, their temples, as much as they saw the afterlife, all in one, all together, all embodied. The Etruscans visited their loved ones every day in their tombs underground, offered them their children in the cradle in arms of a statue, communicating. When in the West today we just bury people in the ground and we don't visit them. These were really connected with life in all levels. The Hagia Sophia, a great Christian cathedral in Istanbul, then known as the hub of the Byzantine world, Constantinople. 1453 it was renamed Istanbul. The Hagia Sophia, great work recognized by the Muslims. They used this great Christian cathedral in the sense, in the being, in the now, in the life, and in the sense of you and I, as it's used today as a great museum. There's no sense of religion here. The sense of that word humanity takes us away from the great destruction being done by the same religion at Palmyra. A great leveller. The religion has no sense in humanity, has more sense in that these buildings are created for life. Hagia Sophia again. Great contrast of Christianity being the hub and the minarets being the sense of Islam, but the sense of people, humanity, us, you and I, you listening to this and watching these images. Sicily, the great sites of Sicily. Remark us that these sites were great temples once, seen in those great films which you might see, Jason and the Argonaut, films from the 50s and 60s. But back then, when they were constructed 2,500, 600 years ago, these sites on Sicily and elsewhere in the Greek world, of the Doric world, these were about people, scholars and theology and the early idea of demos, life, games, Olympia, all that, born out in these great attributed landmarks to not a religion, to you and I, your ancestor. Now we dart to Peru, the Inca civilization. You can't get a blade in there. And that guy, that little figure in the left of center, it tells you the greatness. Many people think this is about construction by aliens. No, it's construction by us. Aliens didn't create this. It's very insulting for the cultures of the Inca and their counterparts. These were created by you and I. Sense of life, religion all around us. This isn't religion, this is a sense of us creating from nature. Machu Picchu, to get closer to God, to live and be closer to that God, that Godhead, seen in this image. The true love of mankind for its immortality in the sense of now and live. That's what this is about. It's what these images are about. Machu Picchu, I had a chance to go there one day. I can dream now. But then again, I'm alive. And that's what these sites are about. Great Indian temple. Going back to the Angkor Wat. When we look at all these images of these great sites, Angkor Wat and these Indian temples, it'll bring us to us. But unlike some of the other images, Machu Picchu, even the likes of the Hagia Sophia are being used as a museum today. These sites are still used for that very religious sentiment, but the sentiment that the religion that they enshrine is now Hinduism. That's very much there connected. We look at Mayan temple, and you immediately think death, blood pouring down the steps. But the Maya and the Aztec believed that blood was the image of life. All we've got is writings from the conquistadors and from the 1530s telling us about blood-curdling sacrifice by the Aztecs. We have some accounts of similar things by the Aztecs contemporary, but was this just about death? When I've already said blood was about life, did they usually use these sites just to sacrifice human beings? Most of them don't say any signs to us that they were used for human sacrifice. Think on that one. Is history being recreated when you look at these? These were by people who loved, kissed, like you and I, gave birth, lived. So it's not about death and slaughter. It's about marvel of creation by your ancestors' hands. Another image of a great Mayan temple. Aztec and Mayan temples are very similar anyway. Going back closer to home, the Mithraeum. Could you imagine out serving on Hadrian's Wall, very cold, far away from your home, in Hispania, Spain, Germanicus, Germany, and you're leaving a votive opera on the altar just before you go out on patrol, or you head further into Scotland or south or whatever, and you feel that God, give me another day. These are not about celebrating a death cult. Temple of inscriptions. The word of you and I, in that moment, in that sense of awe. Colchester Castle, this is probably one of the sites of death in this series, this introduction to these religions, but Colchester was the site in the year AD 6162 where great slaughter was done to the Roman settlers and conspirators under the Great Revolt of the time. You could say that the many skeletal remains were heated up and used to build this later castle well after the Roman period, after the temple had been burnt down. Not to a god, but a living god, Claudius. This was built in Claudius's time, when Claudius had led the great invasion of Britain and brought it as part of a great province into the Roman world. The point being here, it's about sometimes you don't look at these about mythical gods. You think about them as living gods. That sense of now. Temple in France, the Nîmes Roman temple. Walking up those steps today as you did 2,000 years ago. Think about that sense. Think about being there. Don't be in awe. We take it for granted now. But then again, they probably always did. But life is to be lived. As you look at this. Religion is more than just death. Subtle thing is about marriage and that side of things, but it's also about keeping your family alive. Reconstruction of a temple, we'll see next week again that temples are not to be seen just in towns and cities. Around the world, in places like Olympia and maybe Delphi, where you've got people who are just associated with religion and that sense of temple, and this is associated with a villa and in the land of Roman Britain. Forum in Rome. He puts him the epitome of Mussolini when he wished to bring these sites back to the people and open up the centre of Rome rather than having little having little ice cream sellers and sort of community. He wished to take all that down, and he did in the 1930s and bring us these temples more alive and to show off the ancient world of Rome, which in fact never went away. Again, Hercules lifting up the world as these temples do today. Another site in Sicily of the Doric order. Exactly the same view where Jason and the Argonauts would approach the temple and be attacked by a skeletal army. Segesta in Sicily. It just lacks a roof and it becomes a temple again of the ancient gods who are still around us. Map of Sicily showing some of the sights and sounds. Temple of Harmony in Sicily. It just lacks a roof again. Great history. The religions coming together. The Wailing Wall in the forefront there. Tower in the distance of the Christian faith and the dome on the rock of the Muslim faith. It's funny it all comes together when the rest of the world is warring. It's just life. It's what you have to see it. Religion is to feed and explain death and life, but an Etruscan model, I'm going to visit the Etruscans in the near future. Their temples. I did their burials, and now I'm going to do their temples. I can't wait. Hopefully I can share that with you all. This is a model of, what is it? Model of the Etruscan home, temple under the ground, burial chamber in other words. Or a temple. They did the same thing, and no real rules with these people. I appreciate you watching and listening to me today, and hopefully you've all picked something up. Appreciate this very much, folks. Keep watching and listening. Thank you.